Welcome back to the Next Gen's Going podcast. Today we have Jeff McNeese on the show. Jeff is CEO of ClarisHealth, a payment integrity company that helps the everyday person receive the right price for medical services and treatment. Jeff is doing great work at Claris and learned much about how Claris is expected to expand, Jeff's career, and what startups and growth stage companies should look for in a private equity partner. This conversation was really insightful, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, so you graduated Lipscomb University in Nashville in 2001 with a bachelor's in psychology. So take me through how you ended up in enterprise healthcare, because that seems a long way.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting leap. Um, I'm kind of, it's one of those scenarios where you didn't exactly plan it, but you're very fortunate the way that the outcome resulted in. I decided to go to graduate school for industrial psychology. So I studied clinical psychology at Lipscomb and with a minor in business, and then decided to blend the two for industrial psychology. And I had the good fortune that in that program, they required you to intern at several companies. And so one of those I interned for was a growth stage healthcare services company. And it was a great opportunity. It was a great program. And at the conclusion of the internship, they pulled me aside and asked if I would stick around for and work with them part time. And I was about to get married, so and needed the money, and so I jumped at the chance. And it was actually the best thing that ever happened to me because it moved from within about 6 months, I was the executive assistant to the CEO, and he just took me under his wing and mentored me for almost 9 years. And I've not looked back and been in healthcare ever since.
That's awesome. When you were under the CEO, what did he teach you? Was it more administrative, how to manage people, or just like
It,
run me through what you're learning?
I mean, it was a gamut, but at first he taught me a lot about just what being a servant leader meant, and that was through watching his example of how he led his organization. Uh, Secondly, just he put me into a lot of uncomfortable situations, things that I've never been exposed to, and just allowed me to kind of wander a little bit and figure out the solution. Never put me in a place where I would make a decision that would jeopardize the business, but gave me the room to learn and to grow. And he once remarked, he said that ultimately became the hallmark of why he enjoyed working with me, was because I knew the boundary of where I could make decisions and then where I needed to lean on others for advice and consent. And it just developed into a great relationship of just learning, really good dynamics about business, about leadership, about team building, and just been really became the foundation for my career.
That's great. I was actually talking with someone the other day, and they were telling me about how school is so different. When you're a student, they don't give you much responsibility, but once you get into work, they give you responsibility. They're not going to let you fail and hurt the business, but they give you the room to perform on your own, which I think is really important. So after that experience, what led you to Claris Health, and how did your previous experiences in that company shape how you lead Claris Health today?
Yeah, so in 2013, I was part of the operating team for another healthcare company that we had built up, and we decided to sell that business to a Carlyle backed organization, and they merged it into a portfolio company that was based out of Pittsburgh. And so I'm a Nashville guy, and so after helping them integrate the business for a year, I mean, it was clear that if I wanted to be successful there, I would need to move to Pittsburgh, and that was not going to be something that we would do with our family. So I got the opportunity to meet two really successful entrepreneurs that have been in the payment integrity space, had built a company over about 15 years and sold it to a division of United Healthcare. and they had just come out of their non-compete and were wanting to re-enter into the space. I was obviously looking for the next opportunity, and they wanted a strong operator, and so that was kind of the marriage that brought me to ClarisHealth. Just now officially 10 years ago. It's hard to believe. And as far as what are my previous experiences that helped me there, I think your entire journey of your career helps shape you for the next step in your professional journey. But you're always pushing yourself into areas where you're of things that you've never done before, and so you rely back on solid principles that taught you about what right looks like. And so, I come back to that first leader, and I've had two prior to this role that really helped mentor and shape me around, the characters and qualities of good leadership.
That's great. When you entered the health space first, what were some of the biggest pain points you noticed that led you to found Claris Health?
Well, it's interesting. We joke about it around here. Is that when I joined this firm, I mean, I could barely spell payment integrity. I mean, I had no idea. I mean, so much experience in healthcare, but never on the payer side. And as I began to better understand the problem, it's astounding. When you look at today in healthcare, 1 out of every 10 healthcare claims are paid incorrectly. And when you aggregate that problem to scale, it's a $1 trillion problem. So when you compound that as a $1 trillion problem on today's U.S. healthcare spend, which as we sit here almost in 2025, is set to double by 2030. And so this problem only gets worse. And it's what leads to the epidemic of higher premiums and, increased healthcare bankruptcy because of the high cost of care. And so we really began to see opportunities to root out waste and abuse in healthcare. And there are many firms that do that. And what I began to see as we kind of walked through our business was that there were all of these great leaders in health plans that had all the great ideas about how to ultimately solve a lot of the payment integrity challenges that were at their plan. But they lacked technology and systems to be able to do it. They were managing everything from a disparate set of siloed different functions and relationships. And so we really saw an opportunity that was unique to create a category and help the payers aggregate all of these disparate capabilities under one enterprise platform and give them more control of their strategy. And that's been the journey that we've been on for the last 7.5 of those 10 years. We spent the first 2.5 really figuring out exactly what the problems are and how we thought we needed to solve it. And it's been great. We have delivered exponential value to our customers, leveraging our platform, and are really helping them achieve their strategic objectives.
That's great. You mentioned that 1 out of 10 payments in healthcare are incorrect. Does that mean overpay or underpay, both of them?
It does. It's why the term payment integrity, was really coined, because it's really a focus on looking at how do you pay the claim right, and how do you pay it right the first time, right? Because that's the challenge, is you can run into claims that are both overpaid and underpaid, and then each time that you identify that after the payment has already been made, you create additional waste, administrative waste, and reprocessing those claims. And so all of that is what aggregates into that $1 trillion of waste.
Do you have any insight on how those claims become underpaid or overpaid?
Yeah, it's really comes down to the complexity. It's at the fundamental level, the complexity of the U.S. healthcare system. I mean, you start with, You start with things such as really complex contracting between the providers and payers that are difficult to administer. And then it's compounded by antiquated technology that is bolted together that can't keep up with the complexities of the system. And then all sorts of other myriad process issues in between, and it ultimately just results in inaccurate payments. And what you'll be surprised about is it's everything from the simplest things to how many payments are just paid in duplicate to the most complex issues of where there are truly players in the space, providers that really seek to create fraud within the ecosystem and attempt to defraud both the payer and the member.
Really, that's really interesting. So, how does ClarisHealth combat these issues in the healthcare system?
Yeah, so the industry of people trying to combat this has been around for 30 years, and as really kind of initially started as kind of the side of the desk function of other areas within the payer claims vertical, and then about 2010, to 2015, health plans really began forming strategic payment integrity. Leadership teams and departments within a health plan, and they began to leverage internal analytics systems, vendors, and a variety of just disparate solutions. And so when we began to and when we started the company, we were going to be another one of these service providers to help them root out and identify waste. But what we began to find out was these plan leaders were of cost avoiding and recovering hundreds of millions of dollars, many cases upwards over $1 billion a year for their health plan. But they had no solutions to really aggregate, report, manage that, or develop strategies that ultimately help them truly avoid paying those claims incorrectly in the first place. And so we looked at it and said, let's not just be another Me Too in the space. Let's look at how we can help them accomplish that strategy. And so that led to us, really transforming our company into a SaaS technology firm where we provide an enterprise platform that helps them manage that by integrating all of those disparate areas of detection under one operating platform. And so it gives the payer leader a single visibility or single pane of glass to look at everything that they're doing and make really strong strategic and financial decisions about how to best advance their strategy, which involves ultimately, as we talked about, how do I ensure that the plan is paying the claim right the first time? And then how do I lower the cost of this detection? Because the cost is also a part of that waste.
That's really cool. Could you compare it even? My knowledge is limited, but could you compare ClarisHealth to, say, an Oracle or SAP, but specialized for payment integrity?
Yeah, it's funny. I talk to a lot of people about comparing what we do to like the like what Salesforce is to the enterprise CRM business. Is that we really exist to provide that platform in which you could administrate all of your operations around and integrate other best in class technologies that allow you to maximize value. And so that's we focus a lot on how do we take our system and leverage other good technologies firmly integrated to create what I like to call a string of pearls strategy that really gives a payer the opportunity to really maximize what they want to accomplish, because the health plans have great leaders there. They know exactly what right looks like. They know where they want to go, and they know how to achieve it. They just need technology and solution partners to help them unlock that strategy.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Speaking of the health plans, y'all have helped over 20 health plans and impacted over 70 million lives to date. What were some of the biggest hurdles y'all faced in that process? Was it building trust or navigating regulation or something else entirely?
It's probably all of them, but I would, but if you really pared it down, I would say that when you're creating a category and doing something that's never been done before, creating that trust and demonstrating and proving your value is mission one. I can remember in 2016 when we were marketing to sell our first customer, and we were presenting. The chief operating officer joined into the meeting, and this was someone who was a veteran in healthcare and had a really good handle on payment integrity. And after we wrapped our pitch of all the things that we said that we could do with this platform, he stood up and said, "There's absolutely no way that you guys can do what you're saying that you're doing." And so that became obviously a rallying cry for us to prove it, and we're happy today that 8 years later they're still one of our number one customers with us, and we've delivered to them over a 35-to-1 ROI with the value that our system has provided to them over this past several years. So yeah, there was a lot of challenges we had to overcome with when you're doing something brand new and paving a way. Building trust is probably fundamental, and that's still what we do every day. Each of our customers that sign up for our solutions are entrusting us to help them with our strategy, and we have an obligation to continue to not only serve them with what we built today, but to help them think about what their strategy is going to need to be tomorrow, and to be that partner for them. And beyond that, the biggest thing was recognizing that you can't do any of this as an individual. That everything that's worth doing is a team sport, and surrounding yourself with the best people around you that can help you make really great decisions and guide the business forward.
Yeah, that's a shocking ROI. But speaking of that team mindset, how do you get and I guess lead a team of anyone from software developers to build out the software and websites and all of that, all the way to the financial people? Like, how do you blend all of those people together to create some great company that can achieve that ROI?
Well, I mean, there's a few things. I mean, one, it's like you want to make sure that you're you know, hiring people that believe in the vision, right? So you have to cultivate and create a vision that is compelling. When you think about as I mentioned earlier, the healthcare challenge, and how you think about the trickle down effect on individuals. I mean, we all have our own healthcare journey and our own healthcare stories and our own impacts of the high cost of healthcare. We've all seen, friends, family members that have been impacted by healthcare, the healthcare costs and the challenges of getting quality care. And so it's very easy to want to be in this type of space and part of this journey trying to solve this type of problem. And then from there, it really comes down to, starting with the people that are immediately around you, is finding great people that not only know their domain. Competency is so important, but character, but have a phenomenal character that recognize that in their leadership role, they exist to serve, and if they serve those underneath them, that's how we ultimately create success. And so the servant leadership, and it's very, I know it's a overused term of the last maybe 15 or 20 years, but it still holds true. I mean, leadership is an inverted pyramid. You sit at the bottom to serve all of those that are in the organization. And when you surround yourself with leaders like that, that's where you really start to see great scale, and that's how great culture is built within the company.
I agree. I love that idea of the servant leadership. Shifting gears a little bit, earlier this year, ClarisHealth secured an investment from, forgive me if I'm saying it wrong, Pamlico Capital.
That's
How
right.
has that partnership influenced Claris's growth strategy? And now, what are you focusing on with implementing that new capital? Or have you already implemented it?
We actually we just celebrated our 1 year anniversary with Pamlico, which has been fantastic. They've been phenomenal partners. We started off in 22, considering that we wanted to bring on a minority investment partner in our business for the purpose of helping us mature and grow and unlock the next level of scale in the business. We had a lot of interested parties when we formally launched our capital raise. And if you would have knocked me over with a feather to think that we would ended up with a firm that was not on either of the coasts. It was actually based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. But they have been phenomenal. They've come in and represented themselves over the course of this year, just as they presented themselves in our very first meeting. They have a strong culture and very, very appropriately, or I would say appropriately engaged methodology of working with their portfolio companies, and they've really dug in and helped us in the key areas where we wanted help, which was namely, how do we unlock growth? How do we bring additional financial discipline and rigor on unlocking, financial growth at scale? And then how do we think about accelerating our product strategy and getting further, product reach across the healthcare plan ecosystem?
That's nice. So I'm a finance person. I'm majoring in finance, and I think a lot of people in the financial industry get caught up in what these private equity or venture capital companies are doing and investing in. I think they forget that the startups actually have a choice of who they pick. So, what factors do you look for in someone investing in your firm?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I mean, everybody will talk a lot about like picking your private equity partner is very akin to picking your partner for in marriage or life, right? You are really signing a contract and joining together, and so you want to make sure that there's really strong alignment. And so for us, I mean, a few of the things where there had to be really good cultural and strategic alignment with where we wanted to take the business. So someone who would come in and really seek to understand the business, would understand the strategy, and believed in that strategy, wouldn't want to come in and just try to remake it. And that was one of the things that was a guiding principle at Pamlico, is they said that we approach businesses with a compass and not a playbook. And so they come to the business bringing a depth of experience, having seen hundreds of businesses, invested in hundreds of businesses over 20 plus years as a firm. And so they see a lot of the similar trends that, companies at my growth stage, have dealt with, regardless if we were in the exact same sector or the exact same, uh, business in the same industry. And those things really kind of help are kind of guiding principles that we need to help us, uh, not make the same mistakes that maybe they've seen before. How to move further and faster on key dimensions, and they've done just that. And they've been really good at bringing. The other thing that we looked at is, can they bring a really good operating team, not just the investment capital, but operating partners to the table in key areas such as product, technology, finance, people capital area, and really help guide us in key areas that relate to our, next 5 year strategy. And they've been instrumental in that as well.
I've definitely seen the shift from startups just wanting capital, and I don't think they ever just wanted capital, but I feel like in 2024 and probably even more so in 2025, startups and established companies are going to want more operating partners. I've just seen a lot of private equity companies and even venture capitalists push or hire more people that are strictly for operating, which is a really interesting trend. Looking ahead, are there any emerging trends or technologies in healthcare that Claris looks to, implement or that you're excited about? It can be outside of healthcare, but something
Okay.
that you may include in Claris Health.
Yeah, I think I'll talk about two dimensions. And one is, this is really helping this industry bend the cost curve. One of the things that this industry has been plagued with is really high cost of detecting and servicing these overpayments. And so we really kind of sit in a unique transformational process to help them uh, totally transform the pricing strategy and how they approach that and empower them more with control. And so, we'll see over the next 5 years that Claris is really one of the leading companies at helping plans reduce the administrative spend associated with payment integrity detection by transforming the pricing models that have historically existed in the industry. So that's one. And then the other is really the technology revolution that continues to take place in this sector. Um, healthcare payer is actually one of the most significant lagging industries on the emergence and use of modern technology, and which is so surprising considering how much capital is infused within healthcare and specifically within health plans, but it just exists that way. And so seeing the push of more leading edge technology, particularly artificial intelligence and generative AI technology into the healthcare ecosystem to drive efficiency and improve decision making is something that we're very focused on as well.
That's a really shocking statistic. Is that healthcare doesn't isn't up to date on technology. You mentioned generative AI specifically. Do y'all plan to use generative AI in Claris?
So we're really looking at it from a generative AI perspective and diffusing it across our organization, kind of three different areas. One is advanced clinical decision making and insights. So, health plans leverage a lot of clinical nurses, physicians to review records to see where there's a potential abnormality in the billing compared to what's documented clinically. AI solutions can be very helpful with that, with providing greater efficiency to those clinical resources. We also are focused on using it in the area of um, administrative decision making. So we're moving millions of claims through our platform every day, requiring many individual leaders to make lots of manual decisions about how to move and route that inventory effectively. And AI leveraging historical decision making patterns and criteria on those claims can advance a lot of that from an automated fashion and deliver a lot of efficiency. And so we're very focused there. And then the third part is around insight management. Just like you may use Chat GPT today, and in your everyday use to ask questions and glean insights. It's the same way of infusing that kind of capability for our health plan leaders, for them to be able to ask questions about their data versus just viewing reports and trying to glean insights from that. Allow the data to tell the story for them and get to the answer to their question much quicker. So those are just three areas, but we're in the early days of generative AI, and there will be lots of additional innovation over the next decade.
Yeah, that's fascinating. You mentioned how y'all are just using it on a day-to-day basis to help gain insights. I actually think, and I can't credit just myself, I've seen this online too. Kevin O'Leary mentioned this, that
Mhm.
if my generation can learn how to use AI efficiently, I think they can help a lot of established companies that have been around for maybe not startups because they're more up to date, but companies that have been around for 20 plus years on using AI because a lot of those founders and owners don't know how to use artificial intelligence. And so they can come in and just not in depth stuff, but basic stuff, helping them on a day to day improve efficiencies. So we're coming up on time. So I just want to ask two more quick questions. I always love to know what inspires successful leaders like yourself. What are some of your favorite books that you read? And what have you
Yeah.
been reading lately?
I'm a big fan when it comes to leadership books or business books or books that have a pragmatic angle that really kind of help you, um, you know, truly grow your business. There's a book by Mark Moses called "Making Big Happen" that I really love. It's a great book that teaches you pragmatic strategies for focus and execution of your business strategy, leveraging an array of different leadership principles and tactics. And so that book has become a favorite of mine. And then another by Ben Horowitz, which is I think the book is called "The Hard Thing About Hard Things," and it just goes through an array of you know of challenges that business leaders and particularly CEOs will deal with that nobody will ever teach you in business school. And so I found that to be a great book. And both of those are books that I've actually read twice and still and keep on my desk and often refer back to. So those have been two of my favorites. But I think that any really good leader uh, should have a passion for continuous learning. Whether it's through reading or podcasts or however you best glean information. But it's those daily insights that really do help you propel your business.
Yeah, that's great. I actually hear from a lot of successful leaders that they don't read a million books every year, but they have a few that they go back to often and they read more than once.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. So, last question. Finally, if you could go back in time, what's something you know now that you wish you knew, let's say in college?
I would probably say, and I've mentioned it a couple times here, um, is that the really greatest things that are worth accomplishing can't be accomplished on your own. I think it's the most fundamental and important lesson that any leader can learn because we grow, we evolve in school, you know, working independently, focusing on growing our career, focusing on developing ourselves, and there can be a tendency to, ultimately reach a place where you start to think about, if I want to do it right, I need to do it, on my own. And the reality is, if you want to do it really well, you surround yourself with really great people. And so, whether it's your early in your career being part of a team and having a great leader that gives you guidance and instruction and development, and later in your career, being that great leader and surrounding yourselves with other really great people, that's how you really accomplish things. And so I over the course of my career, if I play it back, I've learned it and forgotten it and have relearned it again. And it's something I want to continue to always remember as I continue in my growth story professionally.
That's really interesting. Thank you, Mr. McNeese, for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it, and love to see what ClarisHealth does in the next few
Yeah.
years.
Thanks.